Space travel influences the way the brain works. Space travel influences the way the brain works. You're listening to Technical News Reading, presented by Hakeem Alibokis Alexander on Spreaker, social podcasting, presented for World Reading Club in association with Uniquilibrium. This edition's reading focus comes to us from neurosciencenews.com and is titled Space Travel Influences the Way the Brain Works. It was published on February 17th, 2013 under the categories of neuroscience and open neuroscience articles. Summary. A study of brain function in cosmonauts reveals how the brain's organization changes after an extended period in space, demonstrating the adaption required to live in a weightless environment. Source: University of Liège. Scientists at the University of Antwerp and the University of Liège, Belgium, have found how the human brain changes and adapts to weightlessness after being in space for 6 months. Some of the changes turned out to be lasting, even after 8 months back on Earth. Raphael Ligios, soon to be the third Belgian in space, acknowledges the importance of the research to prepare the new generation of astronauts for longer missions. A child who learns not to drop a glass on the floor, or a tennis player predicting the course of an incoming ball to hit it accurately, are examples of how the brain incorporates the physical laws of gravity to optimally function on Earth. Astronauts who go to space reside in a weightless environment where the brain's rules about gravity are no longer applicable. A new study on brain function in cosmonauts has revealed how the brain's organization is changed after a 6-month mission to the International Space Station, ISS, demonstrating the adaptation that is required to live in weightlessness. The findings are published in the journal Communications Biology. The University of Antwerp has been leading this brain DTI specific project through the European Space Agency. Magnetic resonance imaging MRI data were taken from 14 astronaut brains before and several times after their mission to space. Using a special MRI technique, the researchers collected the astronauts' brain data in a resting condition, hence, without having them engage in a specific task. This resting state functional MRI technique enabled the researchers to investigate the brain's default state and to find out whether this changes or not after long-duration spaceflight. Learning effect. In collaboration with the University of Liège, recent analyses of the brain's activity at rest revealed how functional connectivity, a marker of how activity in some brain areas is correlated with the activity in others, changes in specific regions. We found that connectivity was altered after spaceflight in regions which support the integration of different types of information, rather than dealing with only one type each time, such as visual, auditory, or movement information, says Stephen Gillings and Floris Woods, University of Antwerp. Moreover, we found that some of these altered communication patterns were retained throughout 8 months of being back on Earth. At the same time, some brain changes returned to the level of how the areas were functioning before the space mission. Both scenarios of changes are plausible. Retained changes in brain communication may indicate a learning effect, while transient changes may indicate more acute adaptation to changed gravity levels. Our first featured image shows an astronaut with his back towards the planet Earth, and the caption reads, "A new study on brain function in cosmonauts has revealed how the brain's organization is changed after a 6-month mission to the International Space Station, demonstrating the adaptation that is required to live in weightlessness." The image is in the public domain. Neuroscience continues. This dataset is so special as their participants themselves. Back in 2016, we were historically the first to show how spaceflight may affect brain function on a single cosmonaut. Some years later, we are now in a unique position to investigate the brains of more astronauts several times. Therefore, we are deciphering the potential of the human brain all the more in confidence, says Dr. Athena Demirci, Giga Institute, University of Liège, co-supervisor of this work. New generation of astronauts. Understanding physiological and behavioral changes triggered by weightlessness is key to plan human space exploration. Therefore, mapping changes of brain function using neuroimaging techniques as done in this work is an important step to prepare the new generation of astronauts for longer missions, says Raphael Legios, Doctor of Engineering Science, University of Liège, with a thesis in the field of neuroscience, future ESA astronaut. The researchers are excited with the results, though they know it is only the first step in pursuing our understanding of brain communication changes after space travel. For example, we still need to investigate what the exact behavioral consequence is for these brain communication changes. We need to understand whether longer time spent in outer space might influence these observations, and whether brain characteristics may be helpful in selecting future astronauts or monitoring them during and after space travel. About this space travel and neuroscience research news. Author, Press Office. Source, University of Liège. The original research is under open access and is from a paper titled "Prolonged Microgravity Induces Reversible and Persistent Changes on Human Cerebral Connectivity" by Stephen Gillings and others in Communications Biology. Neuroscience News will return in just a moment. You've been listening to Technical News Reading, presented by Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander on Spreaker, social podcasting, presented for World Reading Club in association with Uniquilibrium. Neuroscience News continues with an abstract from the paper titled "Prolonged Microgravity Induces Reversible and Persistent Changes on Human Cerebral Connectivity." The prospect of continued manned space missions warrants an in-depth understanding of how prolonged microgravity affects the human brain. Functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, can pinpoint changes reflecting adaptive neuroplasticity across time. We acquired resting state fMRI data of cosmonauts before, shortly after, and 8 months after spaceflight as a follow-up to assess global connectivity changes over time. Our results show persisting connectivity decreases in posterior cingulate cortex and thalamus and persisting increases in the right angular gyrus. Connectivity in the bilateral insular cortex decreased after spaceflight, which reversed at follow-up. No significant connectivity changes across 8 months were found in a matched control group. Overall, we show that altered gravitational environments influence functional connectivity longitudinally in multimodal brain hubs, reflecting adaptations to unfamiliar and conflicting sensory input in microgravity. The results provide insights into brain functional modifications occurring during spaceflight and their further development when back on Earth. You've been listening to Technical News Reading, presented by Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander on Spreaker, social podcasting, presented for World Reading Club in association with Uniquilibrium. This edition's reading focus comes to us from neurosciencenews.com. It's titled "Space Travel Influences the Way the Brain Works." It was published under the categories of neuroscience and open neuroscience articles on February 17, 2023. You can read this article and others like it for yourself by visiting neurosciencenews.com. That's neurosciencenews.com. neurosciencenews.com. Space travel influences the way the brain works.